All right. Welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. This is our final webinar for the PhD in Bioethics program at Case Western Reserve University before our deadline next week. We are delighted to have you joining us. Um, I am joined by a few folks here. I am Dr. Leah Jeanette. I'm the Assistant Director of Education, and joining me is Dr. Marsha Michie. She is an Associate Professor of Bioethics. She does a lot of research here in the department, and she is also the co-director of the PhD in Bioethics program. You've heard from her before in a couple of different webinars. So just for the sake of time, if you want to learn more about her, you can see kind of her intros in our previous webinars. But what I want to get to is we have two PhD students who are joining us today. We have Anna Goff, who is a PhD candidate. Anna, you're a fourth year at this point. And we also have Debra Beight with us, who is a PhD student. Deb, you are a second year student, which is amazing. It's been great to see both of them on their journey through these years. So thank you both for joining us today. As we work our way through kind of talking about these different topics, you'll get to hear from Dr. Michie and Anna and Deb as we go through. Just for a little bit of housekeeping, we're going to talk a little bit about Case Western Reserve University, just a very quick highlight about the program, but really focusing on kind of discussion from our students. And then we'll get into the Ask Me Anything portion, which we have some pre-submitted questions, but we're also going to take questions from those who are here in attendance, review the application process and timeline, and then we'll wrap up. So if you are interested in submitting questions live for the AMA portion of this, you can do that through the Q&A feature. Go ahead and submit them at any point. And as we get to that portion of the webinar, I will go through and look for ones that I think are going to be most relevant to the most number of people. And I will pose those questions to our panelists. So just kind of as a review, I want to make sure folks understand where we are located. So we are the Department of Bioethics. We are located in Case Western Reserve University's School of Medicine. We are ranked number 1 in Ohio, number 24 in the US, and number 22 in NIH funding. These are, statistics and those kind of things are important, but what it really shows is we are investing in our students, I think is what it really reflects in a lot of different ways. Our students are getting involved in a lot of different ways. Anna and Deb will be able to talk about this. And while, those numbers may mean some things to certain people and some things to other people, I think it reflects the ongoing activities that we have at the university. The other thing that's great about CASE is that not only in our School of Medicine do we have a lot going on, but we have things that are going between the schools going on. So we can work with those in the law school. We can work with those in the social science school. We can work with those in the College of Arts and Science and throughout the whole university, and our hospitals in the area as well, because we have 4 affiliated hospitals here in Cleveland. Dr. Michie, do you want to just do a quick overview of the PhD program, just so we have kind of a framework as we talk about experiences?
Sure. And she's reminding me to be quick because sometimes I just love to talk about the program. So I'm going to be very quick. We do admit a cohort of 4 PhD students every other year. And right now we're taking applications for the fall of 2024. We have extensive financial support for our students, including all tuition covered. We really value intensive mentorship and training, as it says here. And I think that what you'll learn from talking to Anna and Deb today is the many opportunities that are available for teaching and research and clinical consultation, training, and actually doing it yourself. We have welcomed a lot of students from different backgrounds in our PhD program and in our master's program. Many of our students in the PhD program come with an MA in bioethics or a related field, like, say, public health, but that's not necessary. Some do not. And you can see here that we incorporate in our faculty and our student body these many different diverse backgrounds. I don't have a PhD in bioethics. My PhD is in anthropology, and that's true for many people in our department, that our PhDs are in a lot of different things, and we bring a lot of different backgrounds.
So in addition to kind of the kind of framework for our PhD program, our department itself has a lot of different strengths. Some strengths include clinical ethics, ethical and social issues in genetics and genomics, ethics of stem cell research and biomedical engineering, medical and health humanities and social medicine, research ethics and public health ethics, normative ethics. Anna and Deb, I'd love to hear from you a little bit on kind of how you have carved out a unique area for yourselves within the areas of expertise within our department. I think that's a question we get a lot from prospective students as you've navigated the program. Anna, can you start and just talk about what your area of expertise has become within your time in the program so far?
Yeah, for sure. I think I consider that in two regards. The first is more topical interests. So I definitely have fallen kind of into the clinical ethics world in my time in the bioethics department. I'm really interested in thinking about, the kinds of ethical issues that come up in providing medical care for patients, and some of, I would say, the bigger public health implications of the kinds of ethical issues that come up in the clinical setting. And then in terms of methodology, which I think is really central to the PhD program as well, I have gravitated more toward the normative side of bioethics and more of the philosophical work that's being done, while also having the chance to do a lot of qualitative research experience and, working on different projects and that sort of thing. So it's been a bit of a range, but I'd say that those are kind of the directions that I've tended toward in my time in the program.
Thank you. And Deb?
Kind of going along with what Anna said, one of the nice things is we do get this range of different opportunities of areas that we can focus in. And I have focused a lot more on the medical and health humanities and social medicine. I gravitate towards LGBTQ plus health, and that's such a fantastic space for interdisciplinary perspectives. And I think that focusing on that area has just helped broaden my research interests even more. And it does tie in to public health ethics and research ethics and normative ethics. So even though I have like one specific thing I really enjoy researching, it just touches so many different areas. And it's really nice that we get that full experience in the program.
That's wonderful. Thank you both. So a lot of our students can go on to many different career paths, career opportunities, and this is just a highlight, very high level kind of idea of where students can go. I know, Anna, being a fourth year, you're kind of in this mindset now of looking forward in terms of career opportunities. But Deb, yourself as well. I mean, it's never far from people's mind when they're in the midst of PhD programs. But I always think it's important that as your students are applying to PhD programs to ask yourself the question of where can you go? So we always just want to make sure we highlight this just a little bit, whether it's going into academia or into hospital ethics, doing regulatory or work or public policy work, doing research investigation, or even administration type work.
And the great thing is that many people never pick one of those things and stick with just one. Like, I think you are a great example, Dr. Jeanette. You do a lot of these things.
Yes.
And so do I. So it's not a zero-sum game. You get to do a lot of fun combinations of different activities.
It's a great point. Absolutely. So this is the slide that I would love to hear more from our students. So Anna, let's start with you a little bit with this first question. Why did you choose either this program or even just a PhD in bioethics, or to stay at Case? I mean, that's kind of a loaded question and many different ways to answer it, but I'd love to hear, why a PhD in bioethics, why Case, or why this particular program?
Yeah, that's a good question. I found bioethics as an undergraduate student initially at Case Western, and went on through our integrated graduate studies program to earn my master's as well. And, as I was thinking about next steps after finishing those two degrees, I knew at that point that I really wanted to pursue a career in clinical ethics, but I also had academic aspirations and interests as well. I knew that I had a love for teaching and working with students. So for me, I think I viewed a bioethics PhD program as an opportunity to continue gaining a lot of experience in a wide range of areas that I was interested in. So I would have the opportunity to work on research projects while continuing to teach undergraduate students, and also being able to jump into the clinical environment and make sure that, the hospital setting was a setting that I really enjoyed working in, as a professional, versus just the observation-based opportunities that I had had up until the point where I started the PhD program. So for me, I think it was a way to bridge the gap to a professional career where I could continue exploring my interest in bioethics versus pursuing a degree in another field like philosophy, or maybe going to medical school, which was my plan at one point, where I would be kind of getting the terminal degree that I quote unquote needed to be a clinical ethicist, but I wouldn't, through those programs, have quite as much exposure directly to the interests that I knew that I already had in bioethics. So I would say that was my primary reasoning.
And Deb, I think you have a unique perspective on this same question, because unlike Anna, you did not come from Case Western Reserve. So while Anna started as an undergrad at Case, and that's how she discovered bioethics, Deb, you were essentially unfamiliar with Case, in that you had not been a previous student here.
Yes, and I will not make this a very long story, but I do have to start it off with the first time I heard about Case's bioethics program was like 20 years ago. I had read an article in the newspaper about it, and it was such a fascinating topic to me 20 years ago, but I was nowhere at a point in my life where I could ever have envisioned myself going and getting a degree in anything related to ethics. But I never lost the memory of Case and the impact that that story made on me. During my undergraduate work, which was done at Ohio State, so I am a native Ohioan. So during my undergraduate work, I worked a lot with LGBTQ plus communities, and I was always drawn to the health aspects of it, but not necessarily in a health practice type of way. But I looked at all of the different systems that provided opportunities and also provided obstacles for marginalized communities. And that sort of kept pushing me further and further into the ethical questioning, the morality of our decision making, and how those notions sort of impact our policy, our day-to-day practices, just a lot of our sociocultural norms. And I got a master's in public health. I continued working with marginalized populations, and sort of that idea about the ethical implications just continued to grow and grow and grow. And when I saw the application window open for Case, I remembered that newspaper article and I jumped on it as quickly as I could, because to me it was, okay, this is a sign of this is the way I should be taking things.
That's amazing. I actually didn't know that you that 20-year piece of the story. That's amazing. So that's great. So for both of you at this point, if someone were to say to you, what has been the best part of the program or the best opportunities that you've had thus far, what would you tell them?
I think for me, it's been the chance to jump in at lots of different points within the field of bioethics. I was able to teach undergraduate courses. It was an introductory course to bioethics, and really enjoyed that experience of working with students. And, I'm not sure I could have concretely told you before I had that opportunity that I really was interested in pursuing a career in academia. So now I know that that's a really important part of, what I'm looking for in the future. And then, of course, I've been rotating on the clinical ethics consultation service at Metro Health, which is Cleveland's community hospital, for the last couple of years, and have gained really great clinical experience there. And then I would say maybe the last opportunity just to highlight is, I had the opportunity to come on 20 hours a week on a grant for a year that was looking at the use of nudges in recruitment for clinical trial research. And that was really an opportunity that pushed me outside of my comfort zone in terms of topic. I hadn't really done all that much in research ethics before that point, but I also gained really incredible experience, doing qualitative interviews and seeing the grant process for a big grant like the one that I was working on. So for me, that was really set me up for success with my dissertation, and I think will go on to really help to shape myself as a scholar and any research that I do in the future. So I think that I, kind of had this trifecta of experiences that, enabled me to explore a variety of interests during the program.
I would kind of second that from Anna, of just a lot of the experiences that we get to have. We get so many different choices, and we get to see opportunities that maybe we never considered. I came into the program thinking I never, ever wanted to teach a course. And over the past few months, I have just been begging and constructing a queer bioethics course that I am just so incredibly thrilled to have an opportunity to present to students. And that's something I never imagined that I would have wanted to do. Additional opportunities are just the diverse faculty that we have and the networking that they can set you up with. I've been very fortunate to get connected to authors who write on LGBTQ issues, whom I admire incredibly. And they're like, oh yeah, I know that person here. Here's their email address. Let me connect you. And again, these are things that I just never imagined I would have the chance to do. And the department is sort of always surprising me with, oh, no, we got you. We can take care of this for you. We can give you this idea or this introduction. And it just seems so limitless on what I can do. The only thing I'm limited by is my own imagination. Somebody else comes in and they say, hey, do you ever think of this? And then I go off in a new direction. So I think that the best opportunities are just the ones that we haven't been expecting.
So, what have you learned about the PhD program process? I guess that, we've talked about kind of your experience and opportunities, but it's also, a learning curve of academia and how to study and how to prioritize your time of doing the coursework, or in Anna, in your case, working on the dissertation. And as you talked about, also doing the extracurricular type of things that include being on research projects or teaching, or right, the outside of the classroom experiences and how to manage your time. What have you learned about that process of being in a PhD program so far?
Yeah, I would say I've learned a lot, thankfully, in the last 4 years. I think the first is learning time management and prioritization. I think that I came into the program, and it probably even spoke through my answer to the first question, having all sorts of interests and things I was excited about, and recognized pretty quickly that 4 years was going to go very quickly, or 5 years, or however long it ended up taking me, was going to go very quickly. And finding ways to make sure that I was getting the experiences that I wanted to, while also meeting the expectations of the program, was something that was a challenge, but something that I feel I've grown exponentially as a professional, as a student, as a person, through that experience. And then I would just say the other thing I maybe came in a little bit naive to was the extent to which research would be a central aspect of a PhD program. I think I knew I had the clinical interest, and I knew, that I loved the topics in bioethics, but, so much of our curriculum, and, I think we can speak a little bit more to this maybe at some point, is focused around research methodology and how to be a successful scholar in the field of bioethics. So for me, it was, not necessarily knowing until I was in the program just how deeply I would be diving into research. And then, of course, the dissertation process has been all sorts of eye-opening about, what exactly goes into conducting a research study. So that has been a huge learning experience that our faculty have been wonderful and supportive in doing, but I would say it was something maybe I didn't necessarily think through completely before I ended up here in the program in the first place.
I'll be honest, I have never felt more dumb in my life than when I entered into this program, because what I thought it was going to be and then what it actually was, I had so much self-doubt. I had that really hard imposter syndrome of, oh no, Case made a mistake in picking me and I don't belong here. And it was really awesome with the faculty of kind of just saying, no, Deb, that's completely normal. Everybody feels that way. People who have been in this for 20 years have those exact same types of thoughts. And it's not so much coming in knowing everything, because if I knew everything, I wouldn't need the PhD. But it's that being open and able to make mistakes, to say you don't know something, and to learn from it, and to kind of pick and choose of like, well, this is what I'm really passionate about. What are the ways that I can get there? Who are the people that I think could maybe help me the most on it? And excuse me, my weakest skill was networking, and that has improved exponentially in this department. And it's been awkward and hasn't always been incredibly fruitful, but it does teach me that I may not know everything, and there are times I'm going to feel dumb, but I have a distinct perspective. I have something to contribute, and the department doesn't let me forget that. They just kind of give me the tools of, okay, well, this is your thought process. This is how we're going to get you there. So maybe one of the biggest things that I've learned is to kind of trust myself more, and to be okay with being vulnerable and saying I don't know, or that I've made a mistake. You know, you have to do that, or you're just going to be piling on your own self-doubt, and it will be never ending.
I love that. Can I ask a question that's based on something that's come up in the Q&A, but I think it's related to what you two just were talking about, which is how free did you feel, have you felt, to pick your own topic in terms of something you want to do a deep dive into for your dissertation? Did you feel like you had to stick to something that was what the faculty here were already doing, or did you feel like you could go a little bit further afield? What's been your experience with that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say generally there's a lot of freedom to explore topics and interests that you have. I think that there's merit in coming in with ideas of what you're interested in, just to make sure that the program can meet your needs. But at the same time, ensuring that you're not closed-minded about what you might find in the program. For me, I didn't settle on a dissertation topic until the summer before my third year, which was when we were studying for comprehensive exams. And it just kind of came to me at a certain point what I wanted to focus on. And then it became, okay, this is what I want to do. Which faculty do I need around me to support me in doing it? And I've, just to give an example, Dr. Michie is on my dissertation committee as my research advisor, and my dissertation is focused in clinical ethics. Dr. Michie is not a clinical ethicist, but that doesn't mean that she hasn't been incredibly integral to the dissertation process from a research methodology standpoint. So I think that the department has the tools to support just about any research project in terms of research methodology, and then you get to bring the topic and the interest. So at least from my perspective, it's very helpful to have faculty to connect with on topics, but at the same time, it's not a restricting measure. And I've had a lot of support in pursuing all of my interests, even if those interests aren't necessarily the direct focuses that maybe a faculty member might list on a CV or something like that.
I think that I've been incredibly lucky, and I've had so much latitude with what it is that I wanted to study. I came in knowing that there was no one in the department that specifically worked on transgender or intersex issues, and that was the area I wanted to focus on. But I never felt like that was a hindrance, because it was always presented that, oh, okay, well, we don't have someone who works on this, but I can connect you to this person. And then I get introduced to someone else. And even within the faculty, we're going to use Dr. Michie as an example again. One aspect that I was looking at was the concept of uncertainty in medical decision-making. And I'm thinking about intersex, and Dr. Michie is talking about for prenatal testing and genetics, and the level of uncertainty that applies in there. And so even though it's not the exact topic that I'm looking at, I'm still able to get that type of knowledge or that different perspective from a completely different area that is still going to be incredibly beneficial for me. So I did come into the program kind of knowing exactly what I wanted to do. A member of my cohort has been much more open, and she's still kind of figuring it out. And it's working incredibly well for her too. So I think you do have a lot of that flexibility in this program, which really allows you to customize it and make it your own, which I think is just incredibly vital if you're going to do good work, if you're going to do something that you're passionate about.
So there's a question that talks about how the program is structured the first year. When did you start on specific research projects, teaching undergrad? Can you talk a little bit about, and this is for all three of you, can you talk a little bit kind of on overall the timeline for how maybe coursework laid out or how you got involved in either teaching or research? And did you feel like that was a good pace for what you were aiming to do?
I'll just say that if you that we have some of this information on the website about what a sort of sample schedule would look like. And I don't think Anna or Deb have deviated too terribly much from that. They, everybody's schedule is unique. It's not going to look exactly like a sample. But in general, our students do 2 years of coursework, and then they take their comps at the end of the summer after their second year. So Deb is coming up on that. Anna's already done it. And then you defend a proposal for your dissertation. And Anna's did that a while back, and now she's really coming to a close on her dissertation research, and she's in the writing process right now. Whereas Deb is coming up with a proposal and thinking about what that's going to look like next fall. And so I'll just leave it to them. That was just my big overview.
That's helpful.
Yeah, I can just kind of briefly acknowledge, my extracurriculars, as I think Dr. Michie phrased them at one point. I will say the first 2 years of the program, the entire department and in particular program leadership did a very good job emphasizing, your focus at that point is being a student. You are a full-time student, you're taking courses full-time. So, that has to be the priority. And then beyond that, it really is what opportunities do you want to pursue that you're interested in and that meet department needs in relation to any funding that you might be receiving or, those sorts of things. So for me, I was focused primarily on teaching the first 2 years, teaching the undergraduate course that I mentioned earlier. I also did start working in the clinical environment at that point because I wanted to gain some experience there and had the time and bandwidth to do so. And then my third year was the year that I was on the research grant, which that timing worked out really well going into and working on my dissertation simultaneously. So I think it really, I would say, at least from my perspective, was all centered around what your bandwidth was beyond classes, because you do have, it's a lot of time, especially if you're taking a full course load. But I think then it was just working with advisors and program leadership to prioritize what you wanted to pursue. And I would say that all of us have pursued different opportunities within the program, which is one of the great things. Deb and I will not come out of this program with the same set of skills or experiences. And I actually think that that's one really wonderful thing about the program. It's not a one size fits all in terms of TAing your first semester, teaching your second semester. There's flexibility depending on what you're interested in and what you really need to succeed.
I don't have a whole lot more to add to that. I mean, Anna explained it beautifully. I have had the opportunity to teach, and as I said, I was someone who I thought I was never, ever going to want to do that. But it was nice that being given that opportunity, I could actually experience it and say, oh, no, I actually like this, and this is pretty great. This past semester, I worked very briefly on a research project with the School of Social Work, and they didn't need a whole lot from me, so I was still able to focus on my studies and still learn a little bit about the process in research. And I was able to find a balance. And I think that Anna explained it beautifully that, you just have to figure out how much you can commit yourself to in your extracurriculars. Just understanding that your studies are going to come first, but you're still going to have some flexibility in pursuing other venues that you can fit in your time.
Yeah, I would maybe just quickly add something Deb just said that's important, that there are some opportunities where I think it very much is a toe dipping and you can try something out for a semester. It's a minimal commitment in terms of what they're looking for. And then there are other opportunities that are going to be more time inducing, and you're going to have to really, there's a large learning curve that might come with it. So something like, the clinical ethics experience that I've gained at Metro has been really wonderful, but there's a huge learning curve and time commitment that has come with that. So I think there are, different opportunities to match different needs and different capacities and bandwidths that you might have within the program for a given semester or a given year.
So I know that we are at the end of our time, and folks have been submitting questions and we've been answering them. If there's any kind of final questions that folks want to submit, please type those in now and we'll keep an eye on those. But just for the sake of wrapping up, for the PhD admission, please make sure you're submitting all of your transcripts from any courses that you've taken for undergrad or graduate institutions. Unofficial transcripts are fine for the review process. Your CV or resume, we do require 3 letters of recommendation, a personal statement. What we're looking for is in more detail from our second webinar we offered. You can find that on YouTube. We can also send you the link if you email us. We go into a lot more detail on what we're looking for in that personal statement, identifying mentors and kind of thinking about advising. Your writing sample, which should be 25 pages or less. And again, more detail on that is in the previous webinar. Graduate test scores are optional. And if you're an international applicant, English language test scores and transcript evaluations if your degree is not conducted at a university that is done in English. Questions for international applicants regarding waivers for those should be sent to gradadmit@case.edu. In terms of timeline, the deadline for applications is this upcoming Monday, January 15th. The timestamp for that is 11:59 Eastern Standard Time, so just be aware of that. The committee is meeting very soon. We are in the midst of reviewing applications as they come in. And so early March is when we would notify applicants of decisions. Sometime in February, we could be reaching out to individuals for some interviews. So that is kind of the timeline we're looking at. The deadline for enrollment for those who do receive offers will be April 15th. And it seems like it's very far away, but it will come sooner than we think. Dr. Michie, I can't believe I'm saying it, right? But August will be here before we know it. And that's when the next cohort will start. So that's the timeline. If you have specific questions about your situation or specific things about your application, please email us bioethics@case.edu. If you're joining us today, you will receive a link to the recording for this. You'll also be able to see the previous webinars that are posted on our YouTube page as well. And we hope that you found this helpful. Final thoughts from anyone? Anna,
I'll just
Deb,
say, if
Dr.
you
Michie?
have a particular question that wasn't answered during the webinar that's burning, that needs to be answered before you submit your application, please submit it to this email address. We've talked to a lot of you individually already, and we're happy to continue doing that. And if it's a question about, something that might be later, but you want to go ahead and submit your application, that's great. You can talk to us after you submit as well. So we're excited to read your submissions.
Anna, Deb, any final thoughts to prospective applicants?
No, I just encourage you all. Yeah, I just encourage you all to, really think about the why behind a PhD in bioethics and why you think the program's a great fit for you. But, I think I can speak for Deb and myself that we've been very appreciative of our time in the program, and we're also more than happy to connect with prospective students at some point. Maybe the best way is to first go through Dr. Jeanette and Dr. Michie. And if you want to speak with a student about something or want a student perspective on a certain issue, of course, they can connect you with any one of us, depending on what the question is as well. So thanks so much for coming.
Yeah, agree with Anna completely. Thank you all so much. It was really great having an opportunity to speak with you today.
All right. Thank you so much to Deb and Anna and Dr. Michie for joining us. Appreciate you taking the time to answer questions. And thank you to everyone who attended live or watching the recording. We appreciate it. Good luck to everyone submitting an application.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.